Hello, dear listeners. Welcome to Talk to English, where we explore important world events and help you learn English at the same time. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jessica. We're so happy you're here with us today.
Today, we're talking about a very important news story from Hong Kong. It's about a man named Jimmy Lai, a newspaper owner who was just sentenced to 20 years in prison. This case has shocked people around the world.
That's right, Alex. And before we begin, I want to remind our listeners that this podcast has two goals. First, we want to help you understand important global news. Second, we want to help you learn English. So as we talk about this story, we'll explain difficult words and use simple, clear sentences.
Exactly. So don't worry if some words seem hard at first. We'll break everything down step by step. And please, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Talk to English. Your support really helps us.
Yes, and we'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment and tell us where you're listening from. Are you in the United States, Europe, Asia? We want to know.
Okay, Jessica, let's start with the basics. Who is Jimmy Lai and why is this news so important?
Great question, Alex. Jimmy Lai is a 78-year-old man from Hong Kong. He's a media tycoon. Now, a media tycoon is someone who owns newspapers, TV stations, or other media companies. Think of it like a powerful business owner in the news industry.
Right. Jimmy Lai created a newspaper called Apple Daily. This newspaper was very popular in Hong Kong. It often criticized the Chinese government and supported democracy.
And that's the key word here, Alex, democracy. Democracy means a system where people can vote and choose their leaders. In a democracy, people have freedom to speak and express their opinions.
Exactly. Now, here's what happened. On February 8, 2026, a court in Hong Kong sentenced Jimmy Lai to 20 years in prison. This is the longest sentence ever given under Hong Kong's national security law.
20 years is a very long time, especially for someone who was 78 years old. Many people around the world are worried about this case.
Yes, and we'll explain why. But first, let's talk about why this story matters to you, our listeners.
So, Alex, why should our listeners care about what's happening in Hong Kong? It might seem very far away from many people.
That's a really important question, Jessica. You see, this story is about more than just one man going to prison. It's about freedom of speech and free press freedom. These are values that affect everyone, no matter where you live.
Right. Freedom of speech means the right to say what you think without being punished. And press freedom means journalists and newspapers can report news without fear.
Exactly. In many countries, including the United States, people believe these freedoms are very important. When we see these freedoms disappearing somewhere in the world, it makes us think about how precious they are.
Wow, millions of people. That's a lot.
Yes, it was huge. The protests went on for months. And then in 2020, China introduced a new law called the National Security Law.
National Security Law. Can you explain that term, Alex?
Sure. A national security law is supposed to protect a country from dangers like terrorism or foreign attacks. But in Hong Kong, this law is very strict. It makes many activities illegal, like criticizing the government or asking foreign countries for help.
So this is the law that was used against Jimmy Lai.
Exactly, Jessica. Jimmy Lai was one of the first famous people arrested under this new law. He was arrested in August 2020, and he's been in prison ever since.
Wait, so he's already been in prison for more than 5 years before this sentence?
Yes, he was serving time for other charges, including fraud. But this new 20-year sentence is for the national security charges.
Okay, Alex. So what exactly did the government accuse Jimmy Lai of doing? What were the charges against him?
Good question, Jessica. The court found Jimmy Lai guilty of 3 main things. First, collusion with foreign forces. Second, endangering national security. And third, conspiracy to publish seditious materials.
Whoa, those are some big words. Can we break them down for our listeners?
Of course. Let's start with collusion. Collusion means working secretly with someone to do something wrong or illegal. In this case, the government says Jimmy Lai worked secretly with foreign governments.
So what did he supposedly do with these foreign governments?
According to prosecutors, Jimmy Lai asked foreign countries like the United States and Britain to punish China. He wanted them to impose sanctions. Sanctions are penalties that one country puts on another country, like stopping trade or freezing bank accounts.
I see. And what about that second charge, endangering national security?
National security means keeping a country safe from threats. The government claimed that Jimmy Lai's actions put China and Hong Kong in danger, but many people disagree with this. They say he was just reporting news and expressing his opinions.
Right. And the third charge was conspiracy to publish seditious materials. Seditious? That's a difficult word.
Yes, seditious means trying to make people rebel against the government. So the charge means Jimmy Lai was accused of publishing articles that encouraged people to go against the government.
But, Alex, isn't that what newspapers do? They report news and sometimes criticize the government, right?
Exactly, Jessica. That's why so many people are concerned. In countries with press freedom, newspapers can criticize the government. But under Hong Kong's national security law, this kind of criticism can be called seditious.
So what happened to his newspaper, Apple Daily?
That's a sad part of the story. Apple Daily was a very popular newspaper in Hong Kong. It had been running for 26 years. Many people read it every day.
And it closed down?
Yes. In June 2021, police raided the Apple Daily offices. They arrested several employees and froze the company's money. Froze means they stopped the company from using its bank accounts.
So the newspaper couldn't pay its workers or print newspapers.
Exactly. Without money, the newspaper had to shut down. After 26 years of operation, Apple Daily published its last edition and closed forever.
That's really sad, Alex. How many people work there?
Hundreds of journalists and staff lost their jobs, and millions of readers lost a newspaper they trusted. Jimmy Lai pleaded not guilty to all charges. That means he said he didn't do anything wrong. He argued that he was just exercising his right to free speech, but the court didn't agree.
And now he's facing 20 years in prison. At 78 years old, that's basically a life sentence.
Yes, unfortunately. Human rights groups around the world have called this sentence cruel and unjust. Now, Jessica, let's talk about how the world reacted to Jimmy Lai's sentence. This case didn't just stay in Hong Kong, it became international news.
Right, Alex. I heard that leaders from different countries spoke about this case. Can you tell us more?
Absolutely. Let's start with the United States. President Donald Trump actually talked about Jimmy Lai back in December. He said he felt sympathy for Lai and even asked Chinese President Xi Jinping to consider releasing him.
Really? So Trump tried to help?
Yes, but he didn't take strong action to pressure China. He just asked. But the fact that the U.S. president mentioned this case shows how important it is.
What about other countries?
Well, Britain also got involved. Jimmy Lai is actually a British citizen, so British Prime Minister Keir Starmer raised the case when he visited Beijing last month.
British citizen means Jimmy Lai has a British passport, right?
Exactly. Even though he lived in Hong Kong, he's officially a citizen of Britain, so the British government feels responsible for helping him.
Did the British Prime Minister say anything specific?
Yes, Starmer called for Lai's release during his meeting with President Xi. He also told the British Parliament that discussions would continue. The Foreign Secretary is staying in touch with Lai's family.
It sounds like this case is creating tension between China and other countries.
You're absolutely right, Jessica, and it's not just the US and Britain. Taiwan also spoke out. Taiwan's government called the sentence harsh and said it was trampling on freedom of speech and freedom of press.
Trampling is a strong word. What does it mean exactly?
Good question. Trampling means crushing something under your feet. So when Taiwan says China is trampling on freedom, they mean China is destroying or crushing these freedoms.
That's powerful language.
Yes, it is. Taiwan also said this sentence denies people's basic right to hold those in power accountable.
Accountable. Can you explain that word?
Sure, when you hold someone accountable, you make them answer for their actions. In a democracy, citizens and journalists can question leaders and make them explain their decisions. Taiwan is saying Hong Kong people have lost this right.
So, what do human rights organizations say about all this?
Human Rights Watch, which is a major international organization, spoke very strongly. Elaine Pearson, their Asia director, said this sentence is both cruel and profoundly unjust.
Profoundly means deeply or extremely, right?
Exactly, Jessica. It means this isn't just a little bit unfair, it's extremely unfair.
So, the international community is really watching this case closely.
Yes, and here's why it matters globally. Many people see Hong Kong as a test case. What happens in Hong Kong might show us what could happen in other places where freedom is under pressure.
That's a scary thought, Alex. But that's changing now?
Yes, unfortunately. Since the national security law was introduced in 2020, many activists, journalists, and protesters have been arrested. Some have fled Hong Kong to other countries. Others, like Jimmy Lai, are in prison.
That must be really difficult for the people of Hong Kong.
It is, Jessica. Many Hong Kong residents feel they've lost the freedoms they once had. They can't protest like before. They have to be careful about what they say online or in public.
But Alex, what does the Hong Kong government say about all this? Do they defend their actions?
Yes, they do. Hong Kong authorities say this case was not about curbing press freedom. Curbing means limiting or reducing something.
So they say they're not trying to limit press freedom.
Right. They argue that Jimmy Lai used news reporting as a pretext to commit crimes that threatened China and Hong Kong's security.
Pretext is another new word. What does that mean?
A pretext is a false reason you give to hide your real purpose. So the government is saying Jimmy Lai pretended to be doing journalism, but really he was trying to harm China's security.
I see. So the government and the critics have very different views of what happened.
Exactly, Jessica, and that's important to understand. The Hong Kong government believes they're protecting national security, but many people around the world believe they're silencing critics and destroying press freedom.
It's a complicated situation with different perspectives.
Yes, it is. And this brings us to an important point for our listeners. When you're learning English and following world news, you'll often find that people have different opinions about the same event.
That's right. And it's okay to hear different sides and think carefully about what you believe.
Absolutely. Now, Jessica, let's do something helpful for our listeners. Let's review the important vocabulary words we've learned today.
Great idea, Alex. This will help everyone remember what we talked about.
Okay, first word, media tycoon.
Which means a powerful business owner who controls newspapers, TV stations, or other media companies.
For example, Jimmy Lai was a media tycoon who owned Apple Daily newspaper,
Second word, democracy.
which means a system of government where people can vote and choose their leaders, and where people have freedom to speak.
For example, Hong Kong protesters in 2019 were fighting for democracy.
Third word, national security law.
A law designed to protect a country from threats, but in Hong Kong it's used to limit criticism of the government.
For example, Jimmy Lai was sentenced under Hong Kong's national security law.
Let's continue with our vocabulary review, Alex.
Fourth word, collusion.
Which means working secretly with someone to do something wrong or illegal.
For example, the court found Jimmy Lai guilty of collusion with foreign forces.
Fifth word, sanctions.
Penalties that one country puts on another country, like stopping trade or freezing money.
For example, prosecutors said Jimmy Lai asked foreign governments to impose sanctions on China.
Sixth word, press freedom.
The right of journalists and newspapers to report news without fear of punishment.
For example, many people believe Hong Kong's press freedom is disappearing.
Excellent. Those are 6 important words our listeners can practice and use.
So, Jessica, what's the main takeaway from today's episode? What should our listeners remember?
Well, Alex, I think the most important lesson is that freedom of speech and press freedom are precious rights. When we see them disappearing somewhere in the world, it reminds us to value and protect them.
That's beautifully said, Jessica. And for our English learners, this story also teaches us that following world news is a great way to improve your English. You learn new vocabulary, you practice listening, and you understand global issues.
Exactly. And don't be afraid of difficult news topics. If you didn't understand everything today, that's completely normal. You can listen to this podcast again, look up words you don't know, and practice.
Right. Learning English is a journey. Every podcast you listen to, every article you read, makes you better.
Before we go, let's quickly summarize today's episode. Jimmy Lai, a 78-year-old media tycoon from Hong Kong, was sentenced to 20 years in prison under the national security law. His newspaper, Apple Daily, was shut down, and the international community is watching this case closely because it affects freedom of speech and press freedom.
And remember, listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please like this video and subscribe to Talk to English. We bring you important world news explained in simple English every week.
Yes, and leave us a comment. Tell us what you think about this story. Do you believe press freedom is important? What country are you listening from? We love hearing from you.
Your feedback helps us create better content and keeps us motivated to teach English through real-world news.
Also, if there's a news topic you'd like us to cover in the future, let us know in the comments. We're always looking for interesting stories to share with you.
Thank you so much for listening today, everyone. We hope you learned something new, both about the world and about English.
Keep practicing, keep learning, and keep exploring the world through English. We'll be back soon with another episode.
Until next time, take care and happy learning.
Goodbye, everyone. We look forward to having you back with us on Talk to English.